Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're jumping into something pretty central for B2B connections,
Yeah.
business email lists.
hmm
We've been looking at some material from Reach Marketing, a company that offers these kinds of services.
Right, and they give a pretty good overview of, well, what these lists actually are, why they might matter, and sort of how they work behind the scenes.
Exactly. So our mission today is really to pull out the key ideas about these lists, understand their purpose, their potential, especially for, more focused marketing.
Yeah, to see if this kind of tool makes sense for our listeners.
Okay, so let's kick things off. Fundamentally, what is a business email list?
Well, at its core, it's basically a curated collection of contacts, business contacts.
Like names and email.
Names, emails, often job titles, company info. We're talking about people like executives, managers, basically the decision makers within companies.
Okay, so it's not just a random list of companies. The idea, as Reach Marketing sees it, is getting directly to the people who actually influence buying decisions.
Precisely. That's the key benefit they highlight. You're trying to reach the folks who can make things happen, which hopefully leads to more meaningful interactions, maybe higher conversion rates down the line.
Right, moving past the general info at email address.
Yeah, getting away from that kind of scattergun approach and focusing your efforts where they're more likely to, resonate.
Makes sense. So let's dig a bit deeper into the why. Why should businesses consider using these lists? What's the value beyond just, having addresses?
Reach Marketing points to a few key things. One big one is what they call laser-focused outreach.
Laser focus. Okay.
Yeah, think about it. You get access to ideally verified, up-to-date contact info for specific roles. So you're sort of bypassing the gatekeepers, the general switchboard.
Okay. So less chance of your message just getting lost in the shuffle.
Exactly. And that leads to another point, enhanced personalization.
How so? Just using their name.
Well, yes, but it's more than that because
Well,
you often know their industry, maybe their specific role. You can tailor your message much more effectively, speak their language, address their specific challenges or industry trends.
so not a generic pitch, something that shows you've done your homework,
Precisely. And Reach Marketing suggests this relevance really boosts engagement. Better open rates, better click-through rates. It shows you actually understand their context.
which builds trust, I imagine.
It certainly helps. And then there's the efficiency angle, the ROI.
Okay, the bottom line. How does using these lists impact that?
Well, email marketing generally has a pretty good reputation for ROI.
Yeah, it's often cited as a top channel.
So by using more targeted lists, you're making those campaigns even more efficient. You're not wasting budget sending emails to people who are just not the right fit.
Less waste, more focus.
Exactly. As Reach puts it, accuracy plus relevancy equals a powerful marketing driver.
Okay, so the appeal is clear. Targeted, personalized,
Yeah.
potentially more cost-effective. Now, just for context, how do businesses normally build their own B2B lists if they start from zero?
Reach Marketing mentions a few common ways. One big one is content marketing.
Like blogs and articles.
Yeah, or more like valuable downloadable stuff, white papers, maybe ebooks, webinars. You offer this useful content, and in return, people give you their contact info.
So a value exchange.
Yeah.
That makes sense. It attracts people already interested.
Right. Then, of course, there's your own website, using clear sign-up forms, good calls to action.
Making it easy to subscribe.
Yep. And maybe using social proof, like showing how many others have subscribed or testimonials. That can help.
Confidence.
And don't forget networking, industry events, collecting cards.
So relevant, huh?
Seems so. But you need to be careful about getting permission to email them, obviously. And finally, they do mention working with reputable list providers like themselves, naturally.
Of course.
But they do stress, and this is important, verifying the data quality and, making sure it's all compliant with regulations.
Right. Data quality is crucial. Which brings us back to these curated lists. Now, once you have a list, whether you built it or bought it, it's probably not just one big blob of contacts, is it? Segmentation seems really important.
Oh, absolutely essential. If you want that targeted outreach we talked about, you have to segment.
So how do you break it down effectively?
Reach Marketing highlights a few key ways. First, by industry. That's a big one.
Okay, so separating healthcare from finance, for instance.
Exactly. Because the language you use, the problems you solve, the examples you give, they're going to be totally different for someone in, say, healthcare versus tech versus manufacturing.
Tailoring the message to the sector. Got it. What else?
By role or job title. Super important.
Why is that?
Well, think about it. A CEO's priorities are probably quite different from a marketing manager's or an IT director's, right?
True. Different perspectives, different needs.
So you tailor the message again. Focus on the benefits most relevant to their specific job and responsibilities.
Okay. Industry, role, anything else.
Engagement level is another useful one,
Engagement level, what does that mean?
like separating new leads, people who just signed up, from maybe long-term subscribers who haven't opened an email in a while.
Ah, so you treat them differently.
Yeah, you might send different kinds of content or offers depending on how engaged they are. The goal of all this segmentation is, well, ensuring relevance.
Right. Delivering the right message to the right group.
Exactly. Which, as we said, boosts, opens, clicks, and ultimately conversions.
Okay, let's make this really concrete. Can we walk through some examples? How do these industry-specific lists actually help?
Yeah, definitely. Let's take healthcare, like Reach Marketing mentions. A general healthcare list might be huge, but kind of vague.
Right. Doctors, nurses, admins, researchers.
Exactly. But if you get a specific hospital's email list, now you can target institutions maybe looking for, say, patient care software or specific medical equipment,
Much more focused.
or a pharmaceutical and biotech list. Those folks might be interested in research tools, lab equipment, that sort of thing. Different needs entirely.
Okay, I see how this specificity helps tailor the offer. What about manufacturing?
Similar idea. In manufacturing or industrial sectors, you might have construction firms needing workflow software, while maybe textile companies are focused on supply chain tech.
Different priorities within the same broad industry.
Precisely. An industry-specific list lets you speak directly to those unique operational challenges or goals.
Okay, how about finance? Seems complex.
It is. You've got investment firms, mortgage brokers, private equity, all finance, but very different day-to-day concerns.
Right.
So targeted lists let you reach those interested in, say, portfolio management tools versus maybe regulatory compliance updates versus funding strategies, way more relevant than a generic financial news email.
It really is about speaking their specific language. What about retail or e-commerce?
Yeah, think about brick and mortar retail versus pure e-commerce.
Different worlds,
Yeah.
almost.
Kind of. Physical stores might focus on supply chains, customer experience in store. E-commerce is probably thinking more about digital marketing, maybe payment solutions, website optimization.
So separate lists help you focus your message on those distinct needs.
Exactly. And one more, tech and professional services.
Yeah.
Within tech, you could target users of a specific platform like Salesforce or HubSpot, maybe offering integrations or consulting.
Very niche.
Or you could target consulting firms themselves, perhaps for partnerships. Again, an industry list helps you find these specific groups within a huge sector.
So the big takeaway here seems to be that industry focus makes your message immediately more relevant.
Absolutely. It cuts through the noise, increases engagement, and can really open doors for partnerships.
Okay, so let's try to summarize the key lessons from the Reach Marketing info we've looked at. First big one seems to be quality over quantity.
Definitely. A smaller, highly relevant, accurate list is way more valuable than just a massive generic one. Accuracy is paramount.
Right. And second, segmentation isn't optional. It's like essential for actually getting results.
Couldn't agree more. Segmenting by industry, role, engagement, whatever makes sense. That's how you make your messages resonate and improve conversions.
And finally, specialization. Using those niche, vertical specific lists really boosts your credibility, doesn't it?
It does. It shows you understand their world, their specific challenges. You're not just another generic vendor. You speak their language.
It builds that connection. Okay, now, just to make this even more tangible, Reach Marketing lists some examples of the actual lists they offer. Can we look at a few?
Sure. They mention, for instance, a hospital's email list with, wow, over 950,000 contacts.
Pretty substantial for just hospitals.
Yeah, shows the scale even within a niche.
Yeah.
Then there's a manufacturing email list, over 8.6 million contacts. Huge industry.
Okay, and more tech-focused ones.
Yep. A technology user's email list, they list at 48 million contacts. That's likely users of various software and hardware platforms.
Massive potential reach there. What about smaller businesses?
They have a small business email list, too, around 1.7 million contacts. So tailored by company size.
And it gets even more specific, right?
Oh, yeah. They even list things like a nightclubs and bars email list, about 17,000 contacts. Very specific.
Wow.
And even a religious email list with nearly 130,000 contacts.
So it really shows the breadth. You can get quite granular.
Exactly. These examples just drive home the point that you can find pre-built lists for very specific industries or niches designed to help focus that outreach.
Avoids having to build that super specific list from scratch, which could take ages.
Right. It's an option to access a targeted audience more quickly.
So wrapping this up, what's the ultimate payoff here? Why go through the effort of finding and using these well-managed segmented lists?
I think ultimately it boils down to building better connections, more meaningful ones, with the people who actually matter for your business goals,
Because you're targeting the right industries, the right roles.
with messages that are actually relevant to them. That increases your chances of not just being seen, but actually, engaging them and achieving your marketing objectives. More successful outcomes.
It's about moving past that generic one-size-fits-all message
Yeah.
and really trying to connect on a level that resonates with their specific world.
Couldn't have said it better myself. It's about relevance and connection.
So a final thought for our listeners to consider. Think about your own goals. What specific industries or maybe specific job roles could you benefit most from reaching more directly?
Where could that focused outreach make the biggest impact?
Could exploring a targeted email list, maybe like the ones Reach Marketing offers, be the key to unlocking those critical connections? Finding that aha moment where you reach exactly the right person with exactly the right message.
It's definitely something to think about where that precision targeting could take you.